And welcome to the March 22nd, 2023 City Council meeting. We have a full house. I love it. Thank you all for being here. We will begin with the invocation from Councilman McGee, followed by the pledge. If you'll please stand.
May we bow. Our most gracious Father, we first of all come before you, thanking you for this beautiful day. We thank you for all the citizens that have gathered here this morning, and we thank you for our mayor and our city council. We thank you for the city staff, and we thank you for our fire department and our police department that protects us on a daily basis. We give you all the glory and we give you all the praise, and we pray that you will bless us with wisdom and knowledge to make decisions that are beneficial to our city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will begin with the minutes from February the 22nd, 2023.
Move to approve.
Got a motion by Wynn, second by Curtis. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to come down for a couple of awards. Y'all be ready. All right. Okay. We've got a graduation here from the Bring Your Baby to Work program. And for y'all that don't know about this, it's a program where you can bring your baby to work. And it really brings happiness to the moms and to others that get to hold the baby. But the purpose of the program is you bring your baby to work. And if you go to a meeting and you can't take your baby with you, you leave the baby with somebody that's in your office. And the people that they leave your baby with, they've agreed to feed the baby, change the baby's diapers. But it's been a very successful program, and I don't know where Regina is, but thank you, Regina, and for your staff for putting this together. It's a fabulous program. So here we have, is it Luca? Luca, Gary, Infant at Work, GIS department, 4 months. Let's give it up. So, anybody taking a picture? Oh, here we go. Give everybody a hand. The second one we have is Alyssa Tidwell. Come on up here. Come on up here. You want Roderick to hold your baby? Yeah. I don't know why Roderick's the go-to. Yeah, most people are scared of Roderick. All right. Thank you, Lee, for being part of the program and for her being part of the program. We love it. Okay, you got to release. You got to release a child. Oh, we got a bag of this. He doesn't know about that fuzz. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. All right, first thing on the agenda is Z1. Kyle.
Morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning, Kyle.
The first item we have today is a request for a special use permit to allow for a distance variance for a TABC, or Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission permit. The code requires a minimum distance of 300 feet between a place that sells alcohol and a school, and so the applicant has requested the variance to reduce the distance from 300 feet to 290 feet, as the location is within, or the property is within 290 feet of Bell Elementary, which is to the southwest of this property. This property is located along East Fifth Street, across from TJC, or Tyler Junior College. It is developed, or to the south is developed with single-family homes, and then to the southwest is again Bell Elementary School. This is the proposed layout of the building, which is currently under construction. If you've been in the area, the convenience store is located at the rear of the property, or the south side of the property, with the gas station or pumps on the north side there. Here's a picture of the area. You can see the elementary school to the southwest. There is a church across the street, across Fifth Street, which is the way the distance requirement, which is also a 300-foot distance requirement, however, is measured differently than a school. A school is from property line to property line in a direct line, so as the crow flies. The distance requirement from a church is 300 feet, but it is from a door-to-door measurement and straight lines to the property line along this. I'll go to it. Oh, I got a picture here. So this is the how you would measure for a school, which is this property is less than 300 feet, so it requires a variance to be able to issue a alcohol permit to sell beer and wine off premise. If you were to measure this distance to the from the door to door, like as if it were a church, you can see it's well outside of 300 feet. It's just over 1,200 feet away, as somebody would walk through that area to the door of the school. And for a church, this is how that would be measured, from the door of the business out in a straight line, and then to the door of the church. When you do this, it's outside 300 feet. So what I'm trying to convey is that the church is not subject to the distance discrepancy, largely due to the building being set back so far away from Fifth Street. So the UDC does allow the city council to grant a variance to the distance requirement. The city has done that in the past for places to sell alcohol within 300 feet of schools. When that's being evaluated, here are kind of the criteria for that. Generally, the code allows, or city code and also state law allows the city or city council to waive that requirement if they feel that it's not in the best interest of that area, or if it's not serving its intended purpose. And so, of the notices, we did receive one notice in opposition from a neighbor to the east who was concerned about the sale of alcohol next to Tyler Junior College, as well as the school. And then we did receive a letter back from Tyler Independent School District, who was not opposed to the variance, not in favor of it, but just not opposed to it. They did state a concern about making sure that there's no underage sale of alcohol or e-cigarettes or any tobacco to minors, but that's kind of a general concern that they had. This would not allow for that. They would still have to follow the law on that. And so with that, the Planning and Zoning Commission met earlier this month to review this request. They did recommend. They voted 4-0 to deny the request. generally, they were concerned about the distance to the church on the north side, even though it's outside of the 300 feet as we measure, it is still across the road from the church and Tyler Junior College. One thing to note is that the distance requirement from schools applies to K through 12 schools, not post-secondary. And so the applicant wasn't in attendance at that meeting, and so they weren't able to discuss how the criteria are met in order to justify the variance. I believe there is a representative here today from the applicant to do that, and so the applicant has appealed that request or that denial from P&Z. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, we do have one card before I call them up. Anybody have any questions for Kyle?
I have one question. That 300 feet, is that set up by the city or is it set up by TABC?
It's from the TABC.
That's
Yeah,
what
it's
I
a state
thought.
law.
Okay.
It's the minimum state
Correct.
requirement.
And my question, Kyle, would be the applicant, did they know the rules when they built the convenience store? I would have, looked at the way I situated my store or done some background work to see what variances or what I needed to be able to sell alcohol.
Yeah, my understanding is yes, they were aware of. I don't think this is the first convenience store that they built. So, but I think they may have been aware of that requirement. I know they did obtain a permit for the convenience store. That is separate from the permit for the review for alcohol, but generally that information is conveyed whenever the question is asked. Can I sell alcohol from this location? That we do convey that it has to be 300 feet from all those protected uses.
In all my time being on council and now, I recall this issue coming up a number of times.
Correct.
Do you remember how many times in general that we've approved this? I think we've approved more than we've denied, right?
For public schools, yeah. I'm not aware of any time we've denied any request from a public school. I know we've had instances for churches, being too close to churches, and some of those have been denied over the years. I would say at least five instances that we've had for schools.
And some of those were restaurants, because restaurants that serve alcohol have the same TABC restrictions that convenience stores do. So the one that comes to mind, the last one that I can think of was the place across from Tyler Legacy High School, Torchy's.
Torchy's.
So,
there we go.
Yeah, Torchy's,
There you go,
Bubba's 33 was the most recent one, I believe. But yes, a lot of those, if not all of them, were restaurants.
So we're talking 10 feet, right?
Yes.
And I understand Dr. Crawford's position on the e-cigarettes, and I know that he's kind of on this bandwagon of not wanting his kids at school having access to that, and I totally am behind him 100%. But that's state law, you can't buy them unless you're 21, and I don't see kids from Bell buying e-cigarettes, but,
Sure.
Anyway, any other questions for Kyle before we call?
Yeah, so it's just the school that's the trigger in this case in the ordinance, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, and I know it sounds like I'm for this, but, if TISD or if TJC were opposed to it, really opposed to it, you'd see red on this map,
Right. Correct.
and we
No,
don't.
they're not.
Okay. We have one card here. And I'm gonna butcher this. Kawaja? Come on up, please. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you come up to the microphone and just state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Kavaljeet Singh.
And your address?
My residence address is 1509 East Oates Road, Garland, Texas.
Would you like to just speak on behalf of your application?
Yes, sir. Before starting this work, we went to city office and we asked them that we are buying this property and we want to build convenience store. Could you check it, please? Is everything okay? And orally, they said yes. And after constructing building, then again, when we apply for beer license, then also one time I went there and I asked the gentleman who was sitting there, I don't know his name, and I asked them that I'm here for that license, and he checked it in the computer and he said, yeah, is everything okay? There's no problem.
Do y'all have any questions for the applicant?
No.
What department was that he's speaking about? Which department were you speaking with?
Beer license permit department,
That'd be TABC.
Here locally?
locally, yes, ma'am.
I think he's talking about the zoning office, not the TABC,
Oh, okay.
before buying the property.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I don't have any.
All right, thank y'all for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Hey,
I
Don.
just want to add one more thing. I'm sorry,
Sure.
I am Sirajuddin Khwaja, that's what I had. The thing is this, that the access, the store itself is facing on the other side of the school. There is a fence behind that, there is houses, then there is a street, and then if somebody have to come from the school to that store, will have to go all around and then get to the school. Plus, those premises will have cameras outside to make sure everything is working fine. And this permit is for off-premise, so nobody is allowed legally to drink on the premise. So there shouldn't be any issue of like people drinking on the premise, because they have the cameras and they can immediately call the law enforcement agencies to come and take care of those. So I think they have these other locations where they know how to handle this situation.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I think y'all know the direction I'm leaning, but I'm only one guy up here.
I do have another question for Kyle.
I did.
Okay.
Hey, Kyle, so what is the process for this? How is it supposed to happen? If somebody's applying for this, where in the process would they find out, hey, if you're wanting to sell alcohol, you're too close to a public school?
Well, that'd be part of their due diligence to understand that they're gonna develop the property, and knowledge of,
From whom would they find that out from?
well, it's in the city ordinance. If they came and talked to us, I don't know exactly how that happened, but we would have conveyed to them that the distance requirement's 300 feet. For them, so the process for them is to,
Well,
they're ready to
let's don't
submit.
talk about them, let's talk about somebody else.
Yeah.
If somebody else comes in to develop a piece of property and it's a convenience store, where in the process should they say, hey, we're gonna sell alcohol too? And then,
Yeah.
is it the city that would say, well, if that's the case, you know,
if they say they're gonna sell alcohol, then we would convey that they would have to meet the 300 feet requirements from
okay,
schools and churches. Generally, or most of the time, that doesn't come up until they're actually submitted for an alcohol license, regardless. So for every alcohol permit that's issued, by TABC in the city, we do have to review that for the 300 feet requirement. So
okay.
it's just in this case as well, in other cases too, that when we do that check, that review, we identify that it's within 300 feet. So I would say, whenever that, before that process, before you get to that point, if it's somebody wants to sell alcohol, and they ask about what are the requirements, that we would convey that it's a 300 feet distance requirement. But the actual review does not take place until
The
they
application for the
submit it.
license.
And so there's some responsibility on the applicant to identify that. And it seems like the distance requirement from the church, or the way they have the building set back, seems to be to trying to meet that distance requirement. But you can't really modify the property as easily to stay away from the school.
So they have not gone through the process of presenting the 60-day notice so that people can say they want or don't want to have that in that area, right? They're not at that level yet? You know, you have to
I
post
think
it for
that's a
60
separate-
days.
Yeah, that's a separate process. That's just through TABC. For them to get, I think, to that step, they have to have the city
Have
clerk
applied
sign off.
for the license.
Where they have to apply for it and then have the city clerk sign off saying that
Right.
it meets the city's distance requirements. The 60-day notice thing, again, that's a separate process. That's not through the city.
So I guess my question would be, that why are they applying for that now when they have not gotten to the point where they have applied with TABC and done all the requirements in order to get their license after the store opens or gets ready to open?
Yeah, I'm not sure where they are in their process.
Heather, I think, is going to help answer.
They have to, when they apply for the TABC permit, knowing that they have the correct zoning and that they are able to meet our city requirements is part of the checklist. So this is in
That's
sequence
that
with
process
that process.
now, okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
So Kyle, can you show that diagram again that shows the distance from, okay, yeah. So 290 feet. Okay. Any other questions for Kyle? The applicant wants to come back up and say another word.
I have one more question for Kyle. Kyle noticed that the P&Z Commission by a 4-0 vote denied the request. Is that because the applicant did not show up, or was that because of other reasons?
The discussion that took place was, there was questions about what about the church, what about TJC? And so the response to that was, that it's not measured the same for the church. If it was a property line for the church, then that would be too close as well. And if TJC was, applied to that, then that would be too close as well. I think, I don't recall that there be a discussion that the applicant's not here, but generally if there's, if there is concerns from the commission and there's nobody to speak to that, then that's one outcome that may happen, is the denial. But I think, not wanting to speak for the planning commission, but I think generally there was no, the general area was, considered, all pieces were considered in this request, and there was no discussion as to why the requirement shouldn't be applied here.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to come back up, sir? Come on up.
Thank you. 60-day notice is for the on-premise only, not for the off-premise. The 60-day
sorry?
notice, that you were talking about, that store need to place in front of the store before they even decide to do that, is for the on-premise application, not for the off-premise. When somebody is consuming on the premise, then they have to put this notice for 60 days that we are going to sell here on premise and will allow the people to come and drink inside the store. And if somebody has any objection, then it is for the on premise, and this application is for off premise, so it's not a requirement for the 60-day notice.
And the 300 feet is also during that process?
300 feet is the one that is the question, yes. 300 feet is for the school. Yes, it is a question, but there are certain places in the Smith County itself that this store is just against, in front of them is the school entrance, and the store is opposite, and they have been allowed by, I think, city or council. They have allowed them. So there is a possibility of variance, and in this condition, we see that it's all the way in the back. If somebody needs to come to the store, they will have to go around and come to the front, which is like even, and the back of the school is also a playground, and the back of that store is also an empty place where there is nothing. So there is a fence, there is about requirement from the city to the store, there about, I think, 8 or 10 feet distance to the store, then the store is facing to the other side of the street, of the school. So there are like a...
Yeah, I've seen your facility. It's being built, yes. Thank you.
I appreciate it, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I will say this, I've been contacted by a couple of the neighbors, and they read the results of the P&Z meeting, and they just wanted to let me know that they were not for special use permit. I questioned them why they didn't fill out a protest card, and they didn't really have a great answer for that. They felt like one of their neighbors was their voice, but they just said, you know, if it didn't make it through planning and zoning, then why would we want to do anything else with it?
So is that a motion?
No.
No?
I'm just,
You know, it would be interesting to hear a little bit more of the history of what we've done on this, but, you know, it's only the Bell Elementary that's in question, and I understand we're talking about 10 feet, but, you know, the ordinance does have a number, the number's 300. So, I mean, I think that's the trigger for P&Z, that's all they need to consider, you know, whether there's a special use or a variance, that's where, you know, that's for us to decide. And I do think he makes a good point, the applicant, that even though the property line is less than 300, the actual distance somebody would travel is probably gonna be down the street and much further than 300. You know, initially, before hearing that, it sounds like that the history's been more to grant these special use permits. I was against this, but, you know, I would consider it, as we've done on others, where it's for a period of time for review, you know, for a year, something like that, and we can see if there's any issues, instead of or are they always just for a period of time?
Can they do a special use permit?
Well,
Still months?
since this would be essentially a variance request, that would be indefinite. Once the variance is granted, then
I thought it was a special
it
use
can be
permit.
renewed.
To
I'm not
grant,
aware of
yeah,
any that
to
we've
grant a
done.
variance.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any that we've done.
For a variance.
Yeah, through a variance on a
Okay.
time basis.
I just recall, I mean, the grocery store on 31 in the Loop,
Yes.
they made the application to sell beer and wine inside that store, and it was too close to Jones Brashear's school. We granted that application. And Plyler on 5th Street, we granted that one. And I can think of, there was a restaurant down Cork, was too close to a school. We granted it. And I can think of one example after another where we've given people the right to sell beer and wine and given them the ability to have a business model that may be better, may be worse because of the sale of beer and wine. And personally, you know, I hate to take that right away because of 10 feet, when we have given people that right in the past. So I think we have set a precedent of having some tolerance and not just saying we're 10 feet short, we're not giving it. But once again, I'm just one guy.
Whose is that?
It's in James District. Is it yours?
I'll make a motion to deny the permit, special use permit.
I second that.
We have a motion from Wynn and a second from Haney to deny Z1. Any further discussion? All those in favor of denying Z1?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. So we got 5-1 to deny the permit. So good luck with your project. All right, moving on to Z2.
This next request is a zone change from R1D, single family attached and detached district, to planned multifamily district. This is on Shiloh Road. The applicant's requesting the zone change to be able to develop a multifamily development with 223 units on the property. They have prepared a site plan for this development, which I will show in a minute. The adjacent properties to the east and southeast are zoned single-family attached and detached. To the east are developed with a townhome development, and then to the south is currently undeveloped. Further south is zone PUR, developed with residential units, single-family. And then to the west is zoned for multifamily and is developed as such. The adjacent, or this request is consistent with the land use guide, or future land use guide, identifying it as townhouse or garden apartments. To the north, the access would be from Shiloh Road, which is on the master street plan as a arterial street, which also has commercial land uses on the north side. The applicant, again, is requesting the development of 223 multifamily units with a density of 15.23 units per acre. They do have, they're proposing these multifamily units. All the buildings are 3 stories, with the exception of the one to the southeast, next to Shiloh Village, which is a 2-story structure. The site plan stipulates a green belt on the south side adjacent to the Stonegate subdivision, as well as a 25-foot green belt on the east side, adjacent to Shiloh Village, in addition to supplemental or tree plantings to help buffer that development, or those 2 developments. Like I mentioned, the initial request has been modified over the past few months, and the applicant has attempted to address the concerns of the neighbors by reducing the heights of the building, or the height of the building on the southeast, as well as provide additional tree buffers and visual screening and things like that. The notices that were received, there were 12 in opposition, with a protest calculation of just under 18%. Some of those were returned prior to some of the modifications of the site plan, but to date we haven't received any retraction of any protests, as the site plan has been modified to reduce some of the impact. The concerns from the adjacent neighbors to the east and south were generally concerns about stipulating, green belts and buffers and things like that, but also concerns about traffic and drainage. Drainage was one of the major concerns with this development. There is some topography, a creek that does run through the property that the applicant will need to account for when they develop their engineering and drainage plans for the site, which will come at a later phase. There is a representative for the applicant here who may be able to discuss some of that future phases for that, and the planning commission by a 4-0 vote did recommend approval of this zone change in this site plan, the zone change from R1D to PMF.
Any questions for Kyle before we call up the applicant? Adam Reeves, come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, if you would.
Morning, Mayor, Council. My name is Adam Reeves, 3930 Glade Road, Colleyville, Texas, 76034, with Tempest Development, representing the applicant on this project, Titus Land Development. I'll try and be brief to respect y'all's time, but give you a brief overview of where the project started, what we've been through on P&Z, the issues that Kyle highlighted, how we've tried to respond to those to meet everybody's best foot forward of what we're trying to do, and then Amir take questions. So the project has gone through 3 P&Z meetings, it's tabled a couple of times. Where it started was just a straight request to zone to a multifamily zoning. I think the major question and common concern out of that was, what is this going to look like? Which has precipitated the PMF and the site plan that y'all see before you today. That was presented to the second P&Z meeting, so some of the same comments from the original carried to that second one. As Kyle mentioned, I'll break them into 3. The site plan itself, engineering, which I'll kind of specify as traffic, drainage, and erosion are the big 3 questions in terms of that, and then setbacks and building heights with what will be there. So the site plan, as I mentioned, just obvious pictures worth 1,000 words. It's good to see what's going to come in next door to you instead of just a blank canvas of something that could be developed later. So this picture tells that story. A couple of things that I would note is the base zoning for multifamily allows 25 units per acre. This has a 15-unit acre, so we've directly reduced the density that this could be on a straight zoning. Similarly, open space is typically, I think on this, is around a 2.5 acre requirement. This site plan shows over 8 acres of open space. So just on a normal standard, we've tried to reduce what we could be allowed with this site plan. From an engineering standpoint, I'll break those into 2 major levels for the traffic drainage. The first being whether this was multifamily or built as townhomes, which would be allowed right now. A lot of those concerns would exist realistically with either one of those 2 things I would expect from the neighbors and also staff through the process that we would need to go through. So from a traffic perspective, Shiloh is an arterial roadway, so the intent of that is to be a much more traveled and much busier road. Whether it's the existing zoning or the current zoning, the traffic that our site would generate under Tyler codes doesn't change the requirements that we would have to do down the road. So in other words, while it's increasing the traffic, it's not doing something that gets staff with normal engineering standards and current code standards a pause or something that we would have to do outside the normal bounds of a development going forward. Same thing with drainage. However we developed it, we would need to go through that same engineering process, drainage analysis, flood study, engineering plans, and would be held both the consultants and city staff, of course, to check out all those boxes, make sure this thing is designed correctly to not impact negatively either people upstream or downstream. That's kind of the generic. I'll dial in a little bit on the drainage aspect. A couple of the specifics were the folks in Shiloh Village to the east worrying about flooding their homes or their property. And Stonegate to the south had mentioned some problems with they have a lake on their property, and some of the drainage from Shiloh Village just come in and apparently caused an issue that had to be resolved between those 2 groups of the past few years. From just a common sense standpoint, the Shiloh Village is 15 feet higher from property line to where those houses are, and to where that first apartment building would be on the southeast corner. That's a 20-foot elevation differential where they're higher than us. So I would say, outside of the normal bounds of what we need to do from a design standpoint, we definitely don't want to flood their houses, because that means there's a big problem with the buildings that we're building today. So I'm sure that would not be the case. And with the Stonegate, the outfall that caused some erosion issues in their area that affected their lake, that is up a different creek channel that ultimately all comes together downstream. A little bit to the south and the west of that sliver piece on the left side of the site plan. But while we get into the same drainage basin, the stream watershed, our outfall will not be up in that area where the lake is immediately outfalling. So there should be that immediate impact or concern of their lake having erosion problems or any kind of interaction with what's going on there. But again, we fully realize there are steps, processes, code requirements that we need to go through, and we'll work with staff to meet them. I would also say because of those 3 meetings and where we sit today, staff is eyes wide open, recognizing that there's concerns from the neighbors in this area. So our expectation on the development side is eyes will be sharp and pencils will be sharp when this comes to review, and we'll be held to the standard will be high to make sure that we're not making any negative improvements. The third, setbacks and building height. When we originally came in, the site plan was generally like you see it today. What we had on the eastern border to the east of that southeast building was a 25-foot green belt and a 50-foot building setback to try and push that building at least as far as we could away from those homes, but still get us the development density and site plan that we wanted. After iterations with, and the 50-foot setback, where that came from is the setback of the homes to the east of us. That's their setback from their property line. So we just took that as if it was good for them, let's mimic what they've done and start our development with that foot forward. 2 major differences that we've changed after hearing comments from P&Z and the neighbors were to extend that green belt from 25 feet to match that same 50-foot building setback, so that we can try and that effectively means we're not going to build in that area, we're not going to grade in that area, we're not going to cut down trees unless they're diseased or dead, to help with the screening between those. Secondarily, we've focused in area, you can see the little circles of enhanced evergreen screening. So whether that's pine trees that exist immediately to the south of this area, or another large tree that will be evergreen, we're trying to go above and beyond with what that screening would be. Probably the more direct concern was when that was originally a 3-story building, there's still a 20-foot elevation differential, but that 3rd story would start being on the same elevation plane as those houses in their backyards. So what we've done is restrict that from a 3-story down to a 2-story building, so that I'm 6 foot, on the 2nd story I'd be 16 feet or so above ground level. There's still another 5 feet up to where their houses are, and that's another 6-foot privacy fence that they have already got on theirs houses to begin with. So that view angle should not be a concern over looking into people's backyards or homes, and realistically looking up. I don't think you're going to conceivably really see each other in that instance. The Stonegate portion, which is the finger to the left of that page, obviously we're not developing anything in there. The request that HOA group had was to allow for a 100-foot setback from their property. What we took that as, so that the bottom is their property, but they actually own, if you see that diagonal line cutting through the bottom, they own a portion of that property for about 250 feet wide over to Paluxy. So what we did is we actually set that as our boundary, 250 foot away from their actual subdivision boundary, and then added that 500 foot on there. So instead of the 100 they asked for, we're providing them 300 foot boundary in that area. I would say I'll speak for the HOA president of Stonegate. If he's here, hopefully he'll correct me if I misspeak. Their concerns, I think, were alleviated from the last P&Z. The one that we don't show on here, that I believe they would have removed those objections had we, was just detention. My response to that was we didn't want to show something on here. This is in a zoning case that designs the analysis that needs to go into that pond to make sure it's done correctly. It's a little early for that. That sequence really comes with the full construction plan process, flood study process. So the intent is to do whatever we need to do on the property to make sure that there's no flooding or that drainage way is kept up to code, up to standards. So that will be done as a function of the proper design. That's why we don't have it on the map today. I think that'll just be, once engineering happens, we'll let the engineers tell us where it's best served, and we don't want to put it on there today if it shifts and causes questions down the road. But as Kyle said, we went through that process. We tried to be respectful of those concerns, meet a middle ground as best we could. Thankfully, P&Z, I think, agreed and supported our case. Staff has supported the case. So we respectfully ask that y'all approve as well and let us move forward with our development. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Reeves? This the only card I have on this item is Mr. Reeves. Just to make sure we give everybody a choice to speak. Notice there were 12 notices in opposition. Are any of those folks here that wish to come up and speak to this item? Floyd, come on up. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Steve, can I speak on this? Because I had to recuse myself on P&Z on this item. Can I speak?
As a citizen, yes, sir, you can speak.
I was just wondering. So.
Who are you?
Go back to the map that highlights the.
What's your name and address for
I'm
the
sorry,
record?
my name is Lloyd Nichols, address 1930 Stonehill Drive, Tyler, Texas, 75703.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The green shot. Stonegate, what we're concerned about is if you look at that outline, the top of that property, everybody knows Shiloh Road, how you're up on the top and you go down to the bottom with that big hill. The top of the property that we're talking about, there's a 64-foot drop between the top and the bottom of that property. With that shape of there on the bottom piece, on the south end pointing towards Stonegate, what we need is more than the normal engineering that the city does on drainage. We need detention ponds, we need dragon teeth, we need spillways because of the amount of water coming down, and you're taking all of that land out of that sponge soaking up water. You're gonna put it on concrete. If you look to the right on Shiloh Village, city manager, city engineer and us a few years back walked it. They took Shiloh Village with traditional engineering, put a 36-inch pipe out the back, and it took out 30 feet of Stonegate spillway that we had to demolish and eroded the creek down there. And as most of you know, on Shiloh, on Biloxi, you follow the creek over, you had to do a ton of work. The city's had to spend a lot of money on where the water goes under, is it Westmount Creek, I believe? It goes underneath Biloxi there. So the water intensity coming off this property is going to be big. We're okay with the development and everything that Adam spoke of, but we need the city to think outside the box on minimizing the flow of this water as it heads south into that creek with non-traditional engineering that we do here. We usually do it to our current standards, but it needs to be to the next level. That's all we want to speak to.
Duly noted, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Nichols?
No, it's a good point.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on this item before we move forward? All right. What is the will of the council? Any questions for anyone?
No, I mean, I think that is a good point. Of course, the intention is that when the required drainage and site work on a construction project is approved, that there is no downstream impact. I don't know that in reality that's always true. So I think that's a good point. And it could also, it's very possible that once this goes, if this passes and it goes through engineering, a developer could say, that's too expensive, I'm not doing that. You know, it's certainly happened before. So I think both individuals that spoke did a good job. So based on what I heard, and I would emphasize that yes, this is a unusual case in that there's an enormous, well, there's a lot of elevation for Tyler anyway, change on this, and we do not want to negatively impact neighbors that are already, citizens that are already in the neighborhood. But I would move to approve Z2.
Second. Got a motion by Curtis, second by McGee. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with your project. And please continue to work with the Stonegate folks to make sure they don't become unhappy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, moving on to Z3.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to Thrani to present the next couple items.
Good morning, Mayor and Council, and everyone present here today. This is a zone change request from R1A Single Family Residential District to PUR Planned Unit Residential District. This is a property that's located along South Vine Avenue. If you could look in the map, it's to the south of the intersection of Frankston Highway and Sunnybrook Drive. The applicant is requesting the zone change to allow for single-family homes. R1A is a single family as well, but since the lots are aligned that way, they're planning to do with no access on Frankston Highway to face all of the lots on South Vine Avenue, and I'll show the site plan in a minute. The surrounding properties, the properties to the north is C2 and is undeveloped. All of the other east, west, and south is R1A and is mostly undeveloped and also with single-family homes. The future land use guide, since this is also going to be a single family, it is consistent with the future land use guide. That's the aerial view of the property, and that's the site plan that has been submitted. They're planning to build 15 homes, all facing South Vine Avenue. There's a nature trail proposed along the back of the property, and also there's going to be a common space, which is also a requirement for a PUR. And that's the aerial view. Out of the 29 notices that was sent, none was received in favor and 2 in opposition to the request. Also, I would like to point out that this request will help implement adding 3,000 rooftops to the north end, and this is in the north end. Some of the concerns were traffic along South Vine, in addition to what there's already in there in the area, and also decrease in the property values. The applicant, developer, would be required to improve their half of South Vine, and that will help alleviate some of the concerns of the neighbors. Planning and Zoning Commission, by a 3-1 vote, recommended approval of the zone change.
Any questions for Tarani?
So they will be required to bring the road up to current standards, because I know further down Vine there, one of the developers did curb and gutter and improve the road, so they will have to meet the same requirements.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Move to approve Z3.
Second.
Motion by McGee, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Z4.
This is a property that's located south of the previous case that we have seen. This is also a zone change from R1A to PUR. That's the property. The applicant is requesting the zone change to develop a single-family homes as well in this area. The properties to the north, east, and south are R1A, single-family homes, and also some undeveloped lots. If you look at the west, there's a railroad and also C2, that is general commercial and industrial uses along Frankston Highway. The future land use guide, it is consistent, because it is single-family homes. And that's the area. That is the proposal. This is for 22 homes along South Vine Avenue. This will also have nature trail, and it will also have some common space, and this will also help adding 3,000 rooftops to the north end. Out of the 29 notices that was sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and Planning and Zoning, by a 3-1 vote, recommends approval.
Any questions or comments for Tarani?
Move to approve Z4.
Second.
Got a motion by McGee, second by Wynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Tarani. Z5, Kyle.
This next item is on the southeast loop. It's a zone change from office to PMXD2 to allow for a 4-story hotel on this property. The existing properties to the north and east are currently developed with hotels. There's over for commercial use. To the south is an office building, and then to the west is currently undeveloped. Actually developed with multifamily homes. This request is consistent with the future land use guide, identified as commercial. So you can see here the vacant property. It won't have direct access to the loop. It will be through that shared access easement with all those other properties. And here's the site plan. And again, it's a 4-story hotel on this property. The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a 4-0 vote, recommended approval.
Any questions for Kyle?
Move to approve Z5.
Second.
Motion by Curtis, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Z6.
This last item here is a zone change from multiple districts, single-family office and industrial, to PMXD1 for planned mixed-use district. This is to allow for a mixture of uses on the property that will serve our veteran community. This is for Camp V. This is their where they have their outreach, and then also their planned uses for activities and housing on the property. And this zone change will help support that mission. The adjacent properties to the north and east are a mixture of office and single-family districts, generally developed again with single-family homes and some offices across Chandler Highway. To the west is the elementary school, or Jones Boshier School there. To the south is the railroad corridor. This request again will expand the mixed-use center, but it will kind of clean up that area to allow a single operation on that property as it's currently planned for. The proposed zoning will allow for a mixture of uses, including the expansion of the current office uses on the property to serve Camp V, but also recreational facilities, the equine area, multifamily, for housing on the property, which is part of the Camp V's transitional housing program that they'll have there on the southeast part of the property there. But also some nature trails and things like that. There is a representative for the applicant here that may be able to kind of expand on those, but generally the uses are to help support their mission to serve our community's veterans. The planning commission, we did receive a notice in opposition from I believe it was just one property owner to the east, who owns multiple properties. That they were generally just not aware of what was going to happen on the property, so they returned a letter in opposition. I don't know if they were at the meeting to learn more about the proposal, but we haven't heard anything else from that neighbor. And the planning commission by a 4-0 vote recommended approval.
All right. I'm going to put somebody on the spot. Travis, you or Susan, can y'all come up here and just tout what y'all are doing? Come on, Travis. I'm not even giving you time to get nervous.
Put you on the spot plenty of times, Mr. Mayor, so.
This is Travis from Camp V, and I'm going to let you say your name and address for the record, but I'll tell you, everything I've seen at Camp V has been phenomenal. And I told them at an event last week that I think the number of ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings that I've gone to at Camp V have now superseded anywhere else I've been in Tyler. So tell us a little bit about what y'all are doing.
Yes, sir. So first for the record, thank you for having us. My name is Travis Gladhill. Address is 18488 Bluebird Circle, Flint, Texas, 75762. So what we have planned here is more usage of the property that Camp V sits on. All of our lots, as you would say, are basically zoned differently, and what we're wanting to do is all have them under one specific zoning for that multi-purpose piece of property. As you can see here, we do have plans for transitional housing for our veterans. That is going to be complete with a full plan that we are in the process of developing right now, where it's not just a place to stay, but a place to grow and get that veteran back on their feet with a plan, with employment, with financial readiness. At Camp V, we always strive to cover the 4 pillars of wellness, that being social, mental, physical, and financial wellness. And we have done a great job since opening our doors in 2019 to the point where in 2022 we closed out the year averaging 340 veterans assisted a month. Now that we're in 2023, that number has only grown. For the past 2 months, we have already eclipsed 400 veterans assisted a month. And so what this property is also going to allow us to do is have more ribbon cuttings. And then also include a chapel and education center for veterans and their family members. along with a memorial park and basically more parking for those ribbon cuttings and everything. So, any questions for me?
Any questions for Travis?
I want to thank you, Travis, for the great work that you're doing over at Camp V. I'm
Thank you,
happy to
ma'am.
be
We appreciate it.
affiliated.
We always love having you out there as well.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for your service. And I really do want to just thank you for what you guys do for all the veterans. So thank you to Camp V.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I guess we need to vote on this.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by McKellar, second by Haney. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Exciting presentation. P1.
Nothing more exciting than numbers, right?
Yeah.
Was that sarcastic, yeah?
Good morning, Keeter.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. You have item P1 before you. This is a request the City Council consider hearing a presentation and approving the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022. We have Walter Wilhelmy, who's a partner with Prothro Wilhelmy, who's here today to do a presentation, and his manager, AJ Evans, is here as well. As you all know, Prothro Wilhelmy conducts our audit. In my opinion, we had a great audit this year, and he's going to go through some of the details of the audit. And at the end of his presentation, we just request that you take action to approve the audit report. Having said that, I'll turn it over to Walter.
Okay, thank you, Kedrick. Mayor, I heard that. But
I
for the
wasn't talking
record,
about you.
yeah, but for the record, though, you never want an exciting audit report. Because if you do, then that's not good. Okay? Everybody in here will be just clamoring for more. So, just for the record.
Okay.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Yes, sir. I did give you the history of accounting like I did. Never mind. Okay. No, seriously, we're very pleased to present the audit report today. But before we do that, I do want to recognize the finance department for their great work. And you'll notice on the screen there or in your packet, a couple of awards. The first one is the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is the 36th consecutive year to receive this award, and it's given annually by the Government Finance Officers Association. The second one is the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, 16 consecutive years, also given by the GFOA, and it recognizes transparency in the budget process. The next one is the Investment Policy Certification of Distinction, 12 consecutive years, a fairly new award, and this one is given by the Government Treasurers Organization of Texas. So I'd like to give Kedrick, Lauren, and the rest of the Finance Department a big round of applause. Now for the good stuff.
All right.
As far as our financial statements, we're just going to highlight just a few of the reports. We met with the audit committee last week, went over the reports in detail. First is the financial statements. Financial statements and our auditor's reports. 3 reports are included in the comprehensive report. First is on the financial statements. We issued an unmodified opinion, which means the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. It's the highest opinion that we can give as accountants. The second one relates to our report on internal controls over financial reporting. We do not issue an opinion on your internal controls, but we do a lot of work related to those. And again, just real pleased to report no findings related to internal controls. The city and the various departments have very strong internal controls, and we're real pleased to report no recommendations related to that. Then also another report, compliance on federal funds. This is another report where we actually issue an opinion. And we issue an opinion on whether or not the city complied with the major programs. The city continues to be good stewards of the federal funds. You received a lot of them the last couple of years. And again, our opinion is that the city complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements of those major programs. I'm going to have A.J. Evans just review a couple of the financial highlights, and then we'll move on.
All right, thank you, Walter, and thank you to the council and mayor for giving us a little bit of time here. We will be quick with this. So just a few of the highlights in the governmental funds, as you'll see on the screen. Total governmental assets for the city are $114 million. That's up about $5 million from the prior year. Total fund balance, which is your assets less liabilities related to the city, are at $75 million. That's a net decrease of $3 million. And the reason for that is because, okay, last year we got all the money for the Rose Complex. This year we spent it to start building it. And as everybody who's driven by there has seen the great progress, this has been the year of that progress. And so that's the reason for that. There was a big influx of cash in the prior year related to that on the governmental side of things. So I think a key number, though, is that the city was $1.25 million under budget. That's for any city. The budget process is such an important control to make sure that funds are being spent properly. That's something we look at as part of the audit. We're very pleased with all the hands that are part of that process and the oversight as a result of the budget process. So I think seeing $1.25 million under budget is a really great number there. Enterprise funds, this is your utilities, sanitation, and the airport. Total assets were up about $48 million to a total of $426 million in enterprise fund assets, primarily related to a lot of the projects within the utilities funds. There's some bonds related to that as well. And so a change in net position, again, this is money coming in versus money going out, $7.1 million increase. So a lot of utilities projects, of course, some bonds related to that. We looked at all of that as well. Thank you. So overall, that's the highlights. We want to just say again, thank you to the council, the mayor, and then the finance department and their staff, Kedrick and Lauren, and the rest of the staff there, and along with the city manager's office as well. We couldn't do it without them. Sometimes it's some thankless work, and so we're very appreciative of, again, not having an exciting audit because of some of these people. So we'd be happy to field any questions, and we're grateful for your time.
All right, thank you. Any questions for AJ or Walter or Kedrick? Well, great job. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations again.
That was a presentation, but we do need to take action and approve the comprehensive annual financial report.
Move to approve P1.
Second.
Got a motion by Wynn, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. M1, Leanne.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning.
We are really excited to finally bring this back to you guys. As you know, we had a public meeting for the renovation of Pollard Park back in April of 2022. We had a great turnout. We took all of the concerns and the suggestions into consideration and have been working with Half & Associates to generate an overall master plan for the park. Today, which we are here to award a contract to start phase 1 of the project, which will include 2 half basketball courts, a new playground, 1 for 2 to 5-year-olds and 1 for 6 to 12-year-olds, several pieces of all-inclusive playground equipment, a small dog run, a trail that connects all aspects of the park, new parking lot striping, a concrete slab for a future pavilion, and everyone's favorite, a resurfaced tennis court and 8 dedicated pickleball courts. We already have fully renovated the restrooms there. We put the notice to bidders out on March 1st and March 8th, and we had a pre-bid meeting on March 6, 2023. We had 5 contractors who submitted bids, and after reviewing the bid specs, we decided to recommend the lowest bidder. It is recommended that the City Council consider authorizing the city manager to award bid number 23-030 for the renovation of Pollard Park to Smith Builders and Developers to furnish all necessary materials, equipment, superintendents, and labor in an amount not to exceed $435,539.45.
Any questions for Leanne?
Yeah, that is. Leanne, you may want to tell them there's, because it's a difference in regards to what was actually recommended, that the alternate is included with this.
Okay, I'm sorry. So if you look at, I'll go back to the screen. Originally in your packet, I think the base bid was the only one that was being recommended. But because the bid was within budget and it was actually lower than what we projected, we were able to add in the alternate. So the base bid for Smith Builders and Developers was $401,539.45. With the add alternate, which is the additional pavilion slab, it's an additional $34,000, making the total $435,539.45. And we have both Half and Associates here and Smith Builders if anybody has any questions.
No, I don't have any questions, but we're very excited to get this started. I can't believe that was just April of 20, it seems like forever ago we had that meeting there. And all of it looks great, but we did find out too, on the pickleball courts, that they'll actually be able to have, was it sanctioned?
Sanctioned tournaments.
Tournaments.
Yes. You have to have six pickleball courts in order to have an actual sanctioned tournament, and so we have 8.
8. So we'll soon be pickleball central at Pollard Park. So you've done a good job, and I move to approve M1.
Second.
Got a motion by Curtis, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. M2. This was exciting.
It's me again. With the grand opening of the new conference center quickly approaching, as many of you know, 22 days, not that I'm counting or anything, we are here to recommend an agreement for audio and visual professional services, specifically for the WT Berkshire's Conference Center. The purpose of this agreement is to ensure that all of the brand new state-of-art equipment at the new conference center is utilized appropriately and by experienced professionals. This will ensure that the equipment is taken care of, and those that have professional conferences or events will receive specialized specific to their needs, specialized services specific to their needs. As many may be aware, at Harvey Hall, we allowed anyone to utilize our AV equipment, and because of that, we ran into a lot of issues after events with misplaced, broken, sometimes even stolen equipment. And then we had frustrated customers coming in after those events who couldn't utilize the AV equipment. So we put out a notice to bidders on January 18th, January 25th, and February 1st of 2023, and we actually had 0 bids. We then put a notice out to bidders again on March 1st and March 8th, 2023, in which we received 4 contractors who submitted bids. After reviewing the bid specs, we chose to go with the lowest bidder per hour. With that being said, we also would like to recommend to have 2 additional backup contractors who are trained and familiar with the system and equipment in case the primary contractor is available for any reason. Therefore, it is recommended that the City Council authorize the City Manager to award bid number 23-029 for audio and video professional services related to the WT Berkshire Conference Center to Video Magic Productions and Events, LLC, as the primary vendor to furnish all necessary materials, equipment, superintendents, and labor. In addition, designating PC Productions as the secondary vendor and East Texas Productions as the tertiary. And we do have Video Magic in attendance if you guys have any questions for them.
Well, I see Danny out there. From day one, staff has been aware that one of my biggest fears is to get the construction completed and have our first event, and none of the audio visual works. And everybody sits in there and they go, we spent $28 million and nothing works. And so we've talked about this for hours, the importance of having a professional, top quality person running the show. And we've got it. So, you know, Danny and y'all, I'm so glad you got the contract. I don't know there's other people, I'm not slamming them, but I think we've got the best one that's gonna run it. And I totally agree that we need somebody in there that, if we have other people that come in and need audio, visual stuff, they still gotta work through Danny. And so he's the go-to guy, and he's the one that makes sure that it works. So, I'm thrilled with how this is turning out. I'm thrilled that the W.T. Brookshire Conference Center is going to have its grand opening on April the 13th from 6:30 to 8.
Yes, sir.
And would love for everybody to attend. Congratulations to you guys, but I guess we need to vote on this.
Move to approve M2.
Second.
Got a motion by McGee, second by
Ribbon cutting this city's ever seen.
ribbon cutting. Another one, amen. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I'm sorry, who made the second?
James.
Win.
Thank you.
Sorry. I got excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leanne.
Thank you, Shepherds. M3.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning.
The item before you, M3, is the Southside Wastewater Treatment Plant Aeration Basin and Final Clarifier Improvements Engineering Services Agreement with KSA. So, Southside Wastewater Treatment Plant was originally constructed, it's the one down on Cumberland, in 1955. The improvements in this project will include rehab of 2 aeration basins, rehab of 2 final clarifiers, the return activated sludge pump station, digested pump sludge station, construction of a new electrical building, and all of the related appurtenances as according to that, all the electrical and controls as well. So the consultant that we've chosen on this is KSA. Their contract price for the engineering services agreement is $1,745,800. The construction length, that will take about 24 months, starting on March of next year, running until March of 26. The OPC's, or the opinion of construction cost is about $10 million for these improvements. So I'm here to recommend that the City Council consider authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with KSA Engineers for the Southside Wastewater Treatment Plant Aeration Basin and Final Clarifiers improvements project in the amount of $1,745,800, and to approve a resolution reserving the right to reimburse expenditures with proceeds of future debt.
Any questions for Kate?
Kate, does part or all of this work increase the capacity of this facility, or is it just?
No, this is pretty much standard maintenance, but
Okay.
what I will say is, especially in aeration basins and clarifiers, when they are not fully maintained, their capacity does get decreased.
You lose capacity.
But technically speaking, as far as permit goes, we will remain the same at Southside,
Okay.
yes.
Do we get to have a ribbon cutting?
If you want a ribbon cutting, we can do a ribbon cutting.
I was hoping
I'll
somebody
see
was
you all
excited
out
about
there.
this one as the mayor.
I'm excited about this one.
Move to approve M3.
Second.
Got a motion by Curtis, second by Wynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. M4. Michael.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I have a request for you today to approve a $150,000 contract to HDR to perform a railroad inventory and analysis. Now, what in the world is that? So, unfortunately, whenever it comes to railroads in the general area, there's a lot of information we really just don't know about it at this time, and it's very difficult to coordinate with the railroad companies. It's been one of those things that staff has been struggling with for a long period of time. And also, as far as long-range planning, it's been very difficult to get that coordination. So this is a plan that's going to get us that first step into getting there. The first part is going to be doing an inventory, which is going to be, first of all, inventorying where the existing railroad tracks are, and also getting an understanding of how often that they are running. Is it active? Is it not in use? So we can understand what is in use, what has been abandoned. There has been discussion between the city, the county, and other cities within the MPO boundary, which includes the other cities in Smith County, Lindale, White House. Many of them have had questions. If a portion of rail line has been abandoned, can it be acquired for reuse for city purposes? So first of all, as far as the inventorying goes, this plan will give us that data so there could be that jumping off point so we can understand if a portion is even available for potential city acquisition. The second part of it is really getting into the analysis, which is talking about looking at all of the different crossings that are going through the entire county. So the railroad line goes, of course, throughout the cities, the county, but the actual crossings where it goes past a street, typically the maintenance for that is going to be on the local municipality, whoever's going to be maintaining that. So City of Tyler, could be TxDOT, could be the county. And whenever it comes to maintaining those crossings, there is coordination that goes along with that. But again, there's a lot of times that knowing what is the condition of the crossings, what's going to be the experience for the driver going across it. Also, are there other safety measures in place at each one of these crossings for other modes of transportation, bicycles, pedestrians? So it's going to be doing an analysis of each of these crossings. So all of the different municipalities who are a part of it, who would be looking at potentially doing upgrades for crossings, can again have that data so they can know how to prioritize what are the needs of the area. I know I saw a article through KLTV, I believe it was just last week, saying that there was a vehicle that had some minor damage that had happened to it going over a railroad crossing here in town. So this is one of those things that this plan could really help look at all of the conditions of that and then recommend to the city a prioritized list. So if we really wanted to know where to focus those efforts, that would be the outcome of that. And then the third and last part of this plan would be creating essentially some standard operating procedures for the municipalities to be able to follow, that whenever we do need to coordinate, talk to the railroad companies, to have standard operating procedures to say, who do we contact? What do we need to be asking? What are the questions we need to ask to get the best return? Because sometimes it can be a long process. So pretty much trying to streamline all of these operations. That's the concept for the plan. So there was a request for qualifications that was put out through the MPO that was in January of this year. We received statements of qualifications from 5 consulting firms, and after doing an analysis, a grading team looked at it, and the most qualified team was HDR Engineering, which was found by the group that was doing the grading for it. So this, again, is going to be an MPO project, so it's actually 100% grant funded, but as the City of Tyler serves as the fiscal agent for the MPO, that it still follows the standard financial procedures for the City of Tyler, which means that any contract exceeding $50,000 comes to the City Council for approval. So it is recommended that the City Council authorize the contract with HDR Engineering for the railroad inventory and analysis.
Will the study include how often trains run?
Yes, that is part of the inventory. And another thing that I didn't talk about is that there's also the quiet zone. There is a part of that. So we'll actually have some GIS mapping, things like that, that would also help to really identify what are the bounds of the quiet zone. And if we wanted to extend it at any time for any reason, we could kind of have an idea of what it would take to do that.
I want to say, Michael, I am so happy to hear about this because I have so many useless railroad tracks in my district. But you said that this is grant money?
Yes, the funding for this project is going to be entirely through the MPO grant fund.
Okay, excellent. I move to approve. M4.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion by McKellar, second by Curtis. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. M5, Darren.
Good morning.
Morning.
Come up here, just as you know, every year we have an annual seal coat program. We've gone through each year and we create a list of streets you can see here. We also had a couple of alternates with funding allowed that we were going to capitalize on. But at this time, we'll go ahead and I want to go through this pretty quick. This is an annual thing, and it's been kind of a long meeting already. So I do want to let you just kind of, you've seen it, but I want to recapitulate. There's 12.5 miles of lane miles, and construction will be between May and August of this year. That will be funded out of the street fund, Fund 103. We did receive 2 bids, which is about typical nowadays, from LNS Equipment and Reynolds & K. We are recommending going with the base bid of the $559,148.58. This is based on funding. Is really the essence of what this is based on. We did not go with the alternates, which were the fog seal of a couple of groups of streets. So, in essence, the engineering department requests that the city council consider authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with LNS Equipment Company for the construction of the 2023 Seal Coat Program project in the amount of $559,148.55.
Can you go back to that spreadsheet?
Absolutely.
You know, when we try to maintain an average of like that weighted PCI, and we try to keep around an 81, something in that neighborhood as far as keeping our streets there. And there's that one on Vine that has a 92. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but how does something that has an A get on the list of, is it falling apart?
There are sections of it that are, just portions of it that are, and if we do this, and we will dramatically increase the length of, and pull it up to 100 completely. So it's in the area also, so it's just deemed that we can, it would be very beneficial to do this one as compared to another one at this time.
Okay. Any questions for Darren?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McGee, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thanks, Darren. Cassandra, B1.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Do this real quick. I'm coming to you today to request that the City Council consider making an appointment to fill a vacancy on the Main Street Board. Back in 2019, when this board was created, the Heart of Tyler executive board members had 2 positions on the board, and then the rest of them were 5 members that included downtown residents, downtown business owners, property owners, and individuals who shared interest in downtown. So Caitlin Portland is coming off the board, so they would like to request that Andy Burkfield take her spot on for that position. So I'm requesting.
So Andy's the only one?
Yes.
Just one person.
Well, yeah,
It's
it's,
just-
the way that the agreement works is that their chair then fills the spot. So Caitlin comes off as chair, Andy's going on as chair. You now as council have to really ratify that chair now sitting on this board. Does that make sense?
Somebody want to make that motion?
Move to approve B1.
Second.
Got a motion by Curtis, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are down to the consent agenda, and I believe we were going to pull one item.
Yes, I'd like to pull CA9.
Okay?
And I just want to point out, I've had the privilege of working with Dr. Smith for the past 5 to 6 years, serving on the board at St. Paul, where she has been for, 14 to 15 years. And she's just an amazing person, and it's a privilege to now have her working with the local health authority and working with George. And so I appreciate her stepping up to handle this position. And so I just wanted to recognize her, thank her, and have this pulled from the consent.
George, can you come up and just do like a 30-second, if that's possible?
Sure.
Just a quick introduction and
So Dr. Smith, so the local health authority, as you're aware of, in the past, we've had Dr. McGay and then Dr. Levine, who's back in the room back here. Everybody really understood the value of the whole local health authority, particularly during the pandemic. We've known Dr. Smith now for a number of years, and she has recently went to work for UT UT Health, and she's going to be working with residents there, but we're excited to have her. She has a medical degree from University of Texas Southwestern Medical School. She got her, did a residency in Little Rock at Arkansas Children's, and she has been on a number of state committees, so it's very active. She also is in Master's Public Health, so very well trained, very smart lady here, and we're excited to be working with her in the days ahead. And Dr. Levine is going to help her during this transition time as well, so we're pleased to make this recommendation to you guys today. She was approved by the county as part of our cooperative agreement. Our board approved her, and the county's approved her, now you are approving her as well. So this is the last step in the process.
Thank you, George. Dr. Smith, you want to say just one, or not? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I appreciate it. No, I've had the opportunity to serve on the Net Health Board for the last several years, and I'm really looking forward to serving in this capacity. Just really helping to support the wonderful work that they're already doing to help keep our community safe and healthy.
Well, I want to thank you, and Dr. Levine and George and Dr. Smith, you know, during all the COVID mess, and you have the EOC and just the involvement from their professionals to give everybody guidance is essential. And so, thank you, Dr. Levine. Thank you, Dr. Smith. George, just
I
thank
might point out, we have a couple, our board chair and our board vice chair, Kimberly Ashley and Allison Polar, both here today as well, so we're glad to have them.
Well, thank you all for helping keep us safe. Thank you.
Lloyd a board member?
George, you forgot one word, young.
Yeah.
I reminded him.
All right.
Isn't Lloyd Nichols one of your board members?
Yeah, Lloyd is a board member, so Lloyd is a board member as well, so he's got these boards.
Well, thank you to the board.
Thank you.
Well,
All right.
George, thank you. Dr. Smith, it's been an honor to work with you in the past at St. Paul, and look forward to you filling this position. And I know your passion for the community, so thank you for stepping up and doing this. And with that, I move to approve
Who seconded it? Okay, we got a motion from Haney, seconded by McGee. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, we got the remainder of the consent agenda. Save and accept CA 9.
Move to approve CA 1 through CA 8.
Second.
Got a motion by Curtis, seconded by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City managers report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A few items of note. Shiloh Road is a project that we're starting to really kind of move forward on. Staff and our consultant, Half Associates, have continued to make progress on the Shiloh Road preliminary engineering report. One-on-one meetings with adjacent property owners have been conducted, and refinements to preliminary alignments and cross-sections have been discussed. We had a second round of stakeholder meetings on March 9th, which provided updates to the property owners that were over there, as well as to get additional feedback on the project. We'll be taking the comments and making additional changes to the proposed alignments of Shiloh Road. Moving forward, a public meeting is tentatively scheduled for April with a goal of wrapping up the preliminary engineering report in May or June. The fire department, one of the things, upcoming, we have the WT Brookshire Convention Center, grand opening coming up soon.
Conference Center.
Conference Center. I actually think it was, you know, saying Conference Center, y'all told me Convention Center. I don't know. It's the CON.Center, opening up relatively soon. But one of the things that we do as far as our partnership with Brookshire's, beyond just that wonderful adventure, is our fire department works with them on their facility that they have at the Loop and Old Jacksonville Highway. And so last week, the Tyler Fire Department and Brookshire's Grocery Company personnel joined forces to plan and prepare for emergencies at their main center to conduct response and exposure training over a 3-day period. From this training, 2 exercises were planned and will be conducted later for this month, as well as training with our community partners is invaluable as they know their facilities better than anyone else. This type of training helps our Tyler Fire Department members become familiar with the locations of hazards, layout of the property, and how to coordinate with on-scene personnel. This will ensure a safe and swift response to hazards that may arise and threaten our community at this or other facilities. Leroy is with us, and so he can come up, and I know that just as we continue with our response from the winter storms to kind of give a brush pickup, but we did bring back our contractors that were working with us. They had to go do other jobs, but Leroy was able to get them back on the scene, and they started up this past weekend with collections again. They have 4 trucks, and you can kind of correct me on this stuff, as for in crews, to be able to kind of put towards it. And so, do you want to talk a little bit about the progress, Leroy?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
So yes, our vendor DRC came back Monday, and as of now, we're about 80% complete, about 2,300 tickets out of the 27, and about 450 that's remaining. So we feel pretty confident. It's nice having those 4 trucks out there running and helping us get it all cleaned up. And just a good example, I was out there Saturday helping them, and probably took about 15 tickets, picked up about 30 in the same area. So there's still some that don't have tickets, but we kind of got the vendors, let's clean it up. You know, just if you see it out there, just get it picked up so we can try to get it all cleaned up.
And Mr. Mayor, Saturday, Leroy was working in the Azalea District, and he was actually on top of the truck running the grappling hook coming down, getting the limbs. I made sure to move way out of the way. Thank you, Leroy.
Any other questions?
Now, I also want to say thank you. You know, the Azalea Trails opens up at 10 o'clock Friday morning, backyard of the Powering Home, if anybody wants to go. But one of the things was we really wanted the limbs and stuff picked up all over the city, but we wanted to also picked up in the Azalea District just for all the visitors that come in to have a beautiful view. So thank you for taking care of that.
Thank you, Leroy. And just a couple of final notes. I noticed that she avoided us today, but today is Deborah Pullum's birthday. And so she's watching on here and probably yelling at the screen for all the stuff we did wrong. Happy birthday to Deborah.
Maybe Broderick wants to sing happy birthday.
Oh, there we go. He is a celebrity.
Tell us she missed out.
And this is
Oh, go ahead, sir.
I'll interject one thing, because this is a good time to say this. Broderick McGee was actually, I don't guess elected, voted, or awarded, that's the right word. Awarded as the Gospel Musician of the Year.
And won't
carry on.
sing happy birthday.
And then we also recognize Heather Nick. Today is her 19th year of working with the city of Tyler, her work anniversary, and so we are very proud of her and for the work and just the talents and the heart she shares with our community.
All right, any other comments for the city manager before
Yes.
we adjourn?
I got one. Ed, y'all have reported to us that we've had some vandalism that's occurring and has occurred more in some of our parks, and we've redone so many of them. And Leanne told us this morning about Southside Park getting some damage. From the city side and citizens, what can we all do to try to keep these bad actors from destroying or vandalizing our parks when we've spent so much time and effort bringing them up? I know for one, Hillside, the paint walls are going to be redone in the near future, so I hate to see those get redone and someone come through and vandalize them. So anything the city can do, citizens do, what can we all do to protect our parks?
Additional eyes are always appreciated and vigilance is always needed. And so if people do see there is some type of activity that they think is a little suspect, so please contact us through the police department and we can be able to kind of have eyes on that one. For example, though, once we do have ideas that, or know that we have parks that are kind of either being hit or being targeted, we do have surveillance that we do put up. And so, for example, for the Southside Park from last night, that is an active case. We will evaluate that. I'm trying to figure out how best to put it, because it is an active case, and we do have evidence and video and the like that we will be working with.
All right.
But anything that you may see, again, that is you see happening in, or your neighbors see that's a little suspect in the parks, they are supposed to be closed after essentially at dark. The activity last night occurred probably around close to 9 o'clock p.m. Do feel free to contact the police, and they can do a drive-by and just say, ask why that person's there.
All right. Anything else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned.